congratulations, MD,
Thank you. Thank you.
with your admission to the bar.
Thank you, sir.
How do you feel today?
I feel great.
Okay. How has the journey been?
Quite interesting.
Uh-huh. What would you say is the most outstanding thing in this journey?
I think I did realize that even in my journey as an executive, there were a lot of things that I would interact with, which I would know, or rather, which became very clear. Understanding law was very clear. Because the value addition to your whatever other aspect is going to be much more when you add this skill to the core of whatever you do.
What do you intend to do with this? Do you want to continue being an engineer? Do you want to continue being a lawyer? Which way for you?
No, I think to me it's both ways, in the sense that in my engineering, I'll also be adding my legal knowledge. And should I enter into an arena where I have to practice some law, I'll be gleaning a lot from my engineering background.
Okay. I'm sorry, out of all the units that you studied, which one was probably the most interesting for you? Which one was the most difficult?
I think in my undergraduate, I think one of the most interesting is legal systems and methods, where you talk about the history of the common law. And it takes you all the way back to around 1066, the Battle of Hastings, how the common law came, how there were writs, how, like in England at the time, or rather in Britain, there were a number of laws which were operating in the entire empire. To the north, there were the Danes, to the others, and then now the whole concept of coming up with a common law. It's a very interesting thing, coming all the way to the development of the journey for the equity, or coming to the chancery because the common law was not very effective in dealing with certain issues, coming to the issue of coming to what is called the stare decisis, where the House of Lords decide to be bound by the previous decisions, coming to the practice statement of around 1965-66, where again the Supreme Court said, or the House of Lords then said, that they were not going to be bound by the precedents, but they were going to be departing, but on very exceptional circumstances. Because they noticed that when they bound themselves, it became a bit rigid, because there were certain developments where a different decision ought to be done, but by virtue of the precedents, they were then bound by the same. And then going afterwards, again, you come to jurisprudence. Jurisprudence is a very interesting area, coming with the issue of how the natural law developed, where there are people like St. Thomas Aquinas coming up with the issue that there is a higher law, and whatever violates it is definitely no law. Coming with the positivism, where they say law is law, irrespective of how it's developed. The people like Elec coming up with the concept of the recognition, where so long as the procedure has been followed and all that. Coming again, and I think the greatest of the jurists I found is Ronald Dworkin. Ronald Dworkin, and there's a lot of arguments between Elec and Ronald Dworkin. And whereas Elec would say, like for example, when you go to, when there's a penumbra, and I think there was this issue of no vehicles in the past. And Elec would argue that where there is a gap, the judges make it. But Ronald Dworkin says, no. Judges have what is called democratic deficit. They can never come up with any law. And it's not just the issues of recognition, but they are also principles. And the example he gives is a very actually nice example, where there is this grandson who kills the grandfather. But in the will, the heir was going to be the grandson. But by virtue of the fact that now he has killed the grandfather, there was a challenge, because if you follow law strictly, he would actually inherit, and yet he's the one who actually caused the death of the father. And that is where now Ronald Dworkin says, no, it's not just the law, but there are also principles. And he now comes up with the principle that you cannot benefit from your own law. So when you look at jurisprudence, equity, and all these arguments, of course you meet somebody like Thomas Hobbes, who I don't agree with, where he says, for example, the issue of social contract, and the issue that there was chaos, and then there's a Leviathan he creates, and this Leviathan now, people start donating their powers to him, sovereign, the command theory of law, Thomas Bentham. It's quite heavy there, but definitely very interesting for someone who had never encountered such in their
Okay. So you've done engineering. Of course, you've reached the epitome of it. Now there's even a FIEK after your name. You've done IT, now you've done law. What is the next surprise we should expect from you?
It's not more of a surprise, I'm learning an additional language.
Okay.
I speak about maybe 25 to 30% Mandarin. But on top of that, now I'm adding Hebrew.
Okay.
Indeed,
Wow.
I'm learning Hebrew. Out of learning Hebrew, I think there's a lot I'm learning. I'm even memorizing some scriptures in Hebrew, like Psalms 121.
How does it say in Hebrew?
This is the psalm that says, I look up to the hills, where does my help come from? In Hebrew, it says, Esi enai el earim, me'ain yavo ezri. Ezri mehim Adonai, ose shamayim veharetz. Aliten ramot lachlecha. Ine lo yanum, ine lo yishen, shomer Israel.
Wow.
Yeah. Esa enai means I look up to the hills.
Yeah. So MD, tell us, how do you get all this time? Because you're a top executive, of course you're the CEO of Elec Power. You have a very strong background in the region. You are very busy, balancing between work, life, now studies, and I know Kenya School of Law can be very tough. Most students say that. Where do you get the time? How do you balance it out? What keeps you sane along the way?
One thing, and I think even Kipchoge did mention this, that there are no limits. When you really push yourself and you want to achieve anything you put your sight on, and especially depending on God. And that's actually why I put it even that Psalm 19, where it says, where does my help come from? So whatever challenge you face in life, if you are really determined and you believe in God, He will always enable you. And the aspect that you can push yourself up. Wherever you are, you can always push yourself up. And that is why even at the helm of KPLC, I've always believed we can do that. And my desire, even as I lead the institution, is to push them and push them and push them. Because I have a lot of faith. One, in the employees of KPLC. Number two, in their capacity to work and to think and to do. But the only thing I needed to do is to give them that push and encourage them that we are able to do.
So MD, so how do you balance your time between family, between work, between your friends? I'm sure you have lots of friends. How do you balance your time and at the same time ensure that you are attaining your dreams as you aspire to?
Possibly one of the key things that you'll notice about my pattern of life. Of course, at work, I'll give my best. Immediately after work, many other times, I think almost 90% of the times, I'll go straight home. Yes. And that is now the time I love my family. Maybe over the weekends now is when we can interact with friends. So my time is so intertwined in terms of, in a very structured way. You don't find me living in a freelance way, like heading nowhere. If office, home, weekends, yes, we can accommodate some friends. Of course, Sundays, I'll be involved in, at times, activities to do with the gospel and evangelism.
So you're very intentional in all your
Exactly, intentional.
Okay.
Yes.
What do you like to tell the younger staff joining Kenya Power? Because right now we have got a lot of Gen Zs, for instance, who probably have lost hope. You're studying so hard and then you think there are no opportunities in this country. What would you tell the younger staff in Kenya Power?
The whole issue, first of all, is that do make the most of every opportunity. One of the things God has done is to give every person 24 hours. How you use those 24 hours is really what is going to determine. In some of my reading, learning, I was not doing it intentionally to even better my career. I was just doing it because I really wanted to learn. But you'll notice that as you go on that path of learning, which of course there are many other options I could have used that time for, you later on in life realize that whatever useful thing or whichever useful way you used your time is going to determine a lot that comes on later. So the short-sightedness would almost want to look at jobs and that kind of thing in the short term. But once you build your skills level, it will even be difficult for Kenya to hold you, because you will notice that most of the time, especially the young, they use most of the time, for example, in social media. And there is a lot you can learn from social media. So if you use it intentionally to learn, that is perfect. But you are using it intentionally just to chat and exchange things, you are not increasing in your knowledge, and it's not adding any value to you. So the whole aspect is that there is so much hope. This world, by the way, has a lot of opportunities. It's only for you not to just look at the short term or look within Nairobi environs, but to look far and develop your knowledge, your skill, and to make the most, like I had said, Ephesians 5:16, to make the most of every opportunity you have in your hands. And the worst way you can do is to be hopeless. Indeed, the moment you structure yourself to be hopeless, it even works against your own health, it works against your own body.
Okay. So are we expecting to see you in the corridors of court anytime soon defending your clients?
As of now, not quite. But I may be found there, maybe listening in or following issues attached on KPLC.
Okay.
Yes.
So lastly, as we wind up, can you tell us where is your heart? Is it now in engineering? Is it now in law? Which is your true love?
I think all of them.
All of them.
I
I
love
love two things equally. Even the Bible tells us you can't serve two masters. So which is which?
No, I think the essence of how I look at it is not the loving, it is the situations that I find myself in. If an engineering situation requires legal background, and that's actually why also I did arbitration. Of course, I missed 3 scores to be a fellow, but I'm now a full member of arbitration of the UK. But yes, so wherever the whole issue is that I'm using it to deal with the issues that come along my way. If it requires engineering, I will use it. If it requires legal, I will also use it. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations,
Thank you.
once more, MD.
Thank you.
And all the best.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.